way that she did, pleading her case to being a future Divas champion, and after being a former NXT champion, obviously being Divas champion is in the future of Sasha Banks, who obviously people like Triple H and Stephanie are high on, with Stephanie's endorsement of the Divas division coming into this whole revolution, which really Sasha Banks is one of the proverbial leaders of and put at the forefront to really take over from the fallout of everything that's happened with Team Bad. Of course, Tamina and Naomi are the opposition for Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch to face at Fastlane, and the winning team, whoever gets the pinfall in this match, will be the number one contender to the Divas Championship, really posing the first real threat I think that Charlotte has seen since becoming the Divas Champion since last September, because she really hasn't seen a threat or a challenge in the way that she could be seeing one from Sasha Banks, who was obviously focused and very poised on becoming Divas Champion. And if she doesn't get at least one Divas Championship reign in there, her purpose of ever signing with WWE pretty much is thrown out the window, and there never really was a purpose for her to really be there. I think that with everybody in the Divas division, I think everybody has the one common goal that they share, and I think that through talking to a number of divas over the years, or writing about them, or focusing on different angles pertaining to the division, I think every diva shares the one common goal and the same purpose, and that is to be in the division, to be the best. And if you're not there to be the best, just as many wrestlers are there to be WWE champion and be defined as the best and be remembered through that for their legacy, I think that if you're not there to be the best, then you pretty much have no purpose of being there, and you shouldn't be there at all. So I think that Sasha Banks is obviously the definition of someone who is redefining the Divas division for what she is doing, just her character, how she puts herself out there, for being the boss. I think it makes her character that much more unpredictable, and that's one thing that I really detest, is the fact that a character can sometimes be very predictable. I put over Sasha Banks too in my recent column about how WWE were pushing Sasha Banks as the Trish Stratus character of the new generation. She really puts me in mind of Trish Stratus and her character for what she represented in the early thousands. From 1999 to 2006, Trish Stratus had this phenomenal career for being so full of energy, so full of life, and being very unpredictable. And that's what Sasha Banks really puts me in mind of, the new Trish Stratus, or WWE's newest excuse for the new Trish Stratus. I think they are really trying to reproduce a character, if not similar to Trish Stratus, somewhat like Trish Stratus, with different qualities and different aspects of her character being looked at, calling herself the boss. Now, Trish didn't go that far, but Trish really stood out as one of the best of the Divas division, and I think that's what Sasha Banks is really trying to do. Can you imagine if this dream match happened, Sasha Banks versus Trish Stratus? Can you imagine the psychology years ago? WWE were talking about Daniel Bryan versus Bret Hart, and how it would be a match between two of the best technical wrestlers in the history of WWE, the new generation's technical wrestler going against the past technical wrestler of WWE. And WWE Magazine made a couple of really good points for Daniel Bryan versus Bret Hart, if it ever did happen, since we brought up Daniel Bryan there earlier on in my video blog. But the thing is, I think WWE, if they had this dream match between Trish Stratus and Sasha Banks, would generate a lot of attention and get the conversation going to an all-time high on social media, because people will be fans of Trish, people will be fans of Sasha Banks, and the diversity of the crowd response would be awesome. That's a match at WrestleMania I would love to see in the future, given there's nothing really wrong physically with either Sasha Banks or Trish Stratus. Let's get something going in that regard. Even if we don't see the match, let's see a write-up in an article from WWE Magazine, the monthly subscription, like they did for Daniel Bryan versus Bret Hart in a battle of two of the greatest technical wrestlers it would have believed of their generations if it were to have happened. I would like to see something done with Trish Stratus and Sasha Banks, given how Sasha Banks reminds me so much of Trish Stratus and everything Trish Stratus has done throughout her legendary career, holding just as many championships as some of the top wrestlers in the industry. When you're talking about a diva who really redefined the division and really was one of the pinnacles and reasons for this whole Divas revolution. I also really appreciate what Tamina and Naomi are doing as part of the remnants of Team Bad, staying together within this Divas revolution, pushing Sasha Banks. Obviously, everybody realized Sasha Banks was the odds-on favorite to emerge out of Team Bad as the breakout star of that faction, just as Charlotte was the breakout star of Team PCB, apart from Becky Lynch and Paige, who you really were expecting to see big things from, because I was a really big Paige fan. I was putting over Paige for recent weeks, but obviously Sasha Banks is the breakout star from Team Bad, which is why I give Naomi and Tamina a tremendous amount of credit for doing what they have for Sasha Banks as the heels, and Sasha Banks now as the fan favorite. I also think it's a really big move to have Sasha Banks now as a fan favorite rather than a heel. She was there obviously first off to get on her nerves. Of course, on NXT she had her faction with the likes of Summer Rae, and now she was there to get on her nerves as the boss, really taking over the NXT Women's Division under the tutelage of Dusty Rhodes, which she will never forget, given Dusty's passing. I think more so than ever, she'll never forget what she learned from someone like a Dusty Rhodes. But I think really what Sasha Banks' purpose first off was to get on her nerves, and now they realize the popularity of Sasha Banks literally has exploded, and Sasha Banks has a chance of becoming Divas Champion and having one of the longest reigns possibly ever of a Divas Champion in the inception of the championship, with the first champions being Michelle McCool and Maurice, with Maurice holding the title over 216 days. Of course, AJ 295 and Nikki Bella of 302 to 305 days as Divas Champion. So I think they know the potential that goes with someone like Sasha Banks. They're just waiting for the right moment to really execute something for her and to go through with this push, which I think is the smartest move ever right now. And I think they're making every move so accurately and so deservingly for someone like Sasha Banks, because you are the fan favorite metamorphosis, you are the breakup of Team Bad, and then you have Sasha Banks pleading a case to Charlotte's Divas Championship, and the first real threat to come along since last September, and the inaugural reign of Charlotte was first witnessed by wrestling fans. You take a look at Charlotte, and you almost knew that Charlotte was going to be Divas Champion at some point. When she won the NXT Women's Championship, she was dominating in that division in Florida. She was really learning her craft. Also, she was the daughter of Nature Boy Ric Flair, and we all know Ric Flair's reputation with the wrestling business. Now he's really close friends with Triple H and Stephanie, so obviously he had a lot to do with Charlotte's push, a huge influence in that, and there's a lot of people that believe that he's going to be a huge influence in future storylines for Charlotte. I still stand in that too, but it's going to be really interesting to see what Charlotte and Sasha Banks do on their own, which is why I really wish they would take Ric Flair out of the equation, at least for the time being, and leave it up to Charlotte and Sasha Banks to do what they are doing and offering the wrestling fans in the division. Because I think the focus of the Divas division shouldn't be on the fathers or the managers. I think what it should be on is the storyline that's existing and going on between the women that are involved in the storyline, because that's really what draws the attention of the wrestling fan on the action in the ring. And I think that's what the focal point really needs to be on, especially when you're talking about this Divas Revolution, putting Divas Revolution in the quotations rather than the storylines, because we've seen a lot of focus on storylines for the women's division, the Divas division, whatever you're referring to it as, in years gone by, either Trish Stratus and Lita. Remember the pregnancy of Lita and how Kane and Gene Snitsky was involved in that, and meanwhile we had Trish Stratus and Lita feuding along with everything else that was happening outside of what was going on. Of course, we had Kane and Gene Snitsky and the pregnancy of Lita, and then Matt Hardy became involved some way or somehow, then Edge was dragged into the whole situation, and Lita still continued wrestling. I mean, I think the focus really needs to be on the women who are wrestling and the wrestling going on within the division, apart from the storylines. It's not that I have anything against the storyline, because a good storyline along with great action definitely coincides and really works together quite well. But I think really where the focus needs to line is the actual wrestling. So take Ric Flair out of the equation, forgetting about his role right now with WWE, which I am not a fan of, because this man has held 16 world titles. He doesn't need to be in the corner of his daughter. If anything, his daughter needs to break away from being so original. Remember Way Woo Original, which is a video blog I previously posted here on this YouTube channel, talking about how original Charlotte was with her character, and how she was really trying to follow in the footsteps of Ric Flair, which I believe was way too much and really overkilling the whole Flair family legacy idea. We all know what happened to David Flair. We all know obviously what's going to happen to Charlotte, but with Charlotte, obviously predicted to go down that same road. I think she's definitely one of the most successful Flair family members outside of Ric Flair to come along in a long time, because we know the reputation and the track record of the Flair family and what ways it has gone for them, either from every major wrestling company you're talking about, either WWE or World Championship Wrestling, even TNA. The only one really outside of Charlotte right now that had anything go their way was Ric Flair himself, and nobody else from the Flair family was able to really get anything going for their character. So I think at least now they have a chance of trying to redeem themselves from everything that's happened, and I think the way they're going to be able to do that is just by leaving it up to Charlotte and Sasha Banks to do what they are doing. And I think that if you want me to answer the question, if I think that Sasha Banks has a future with professional wrestling, yeah, I think she has a future. In the words of Stone Cold Steve Austin, hell yeah, she has a future with professional wrestling. It's just giving her a chance and really letting her run with opportunities that she's given, because right now WWE are only just now giving her the chance to really run with opportunities she is being handed. They never really did give Sasha Banks much of a chance to really learn anything or really run with any opportunities, even when she was under the tutelage of NXT General Manager Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty believed she had a future. She didn't really have much time to learn anything from Dusty prior to his passing, but one thing she will never forget is working with Dusty Rhodes, such a legend, and how much she learned in that short period of time. We saw Sasha affiliated with Dusty Rhodes, who was the NXT general manager and really was a huge influence behind everything that happened for Sasha during her time with NXT and eventually crossing over and receiving a call up to WWE, which was something that was a long time coming because it was put off and put off and put off and put off and put off. And this is why wrestling fans are giving Sasha Banks the reaction that they are, because they want to see more ultimately for Sasha Banks. And this is where I go back and reiterate how wrestling fans are some of the smartest people in the business that are never given enough credit for how smart they really are. Because if it were left up to wrestling fans, if they were calling the shots outside of Vince McMahon, Triple H, and John Laurinaitis, people like Sasha Banks would be over long before now. It's only now WWE are realizing they want to see things like Sasha Banks and Charlotte, and they want to see things like Sting and The Undertaker, and they keep denying us these opportunities and these chances to see something that we actually have waited our whole lives to see. People like Sasha Banks becoming Divas Champion are moments that we wait our whole lives as wrestling fans to see, and it's only now that we're getting the chance to see Sasha Banks possibly becoming Divas Champion. It's not even confirmed, but we're just holding on to this whole idea of how Sasha Banks is going to become eventually Divas Champion for the first time ever and go on to have one of the longest reigns ever, which Charlotte believes she's going to have. Brie Bella has been confirmed to be facing Charlotte at Fastlane for the championship in the fall of Daniel Bryan's retirement. Nikki Bella's neck surgery obviously is tributes to her family members. She's obviously up for the championship and has a good chance of winning it. But I don't see Nikki Bella or Brie Bella coming away with that Divas Championship just yet, with all the emphasis, of course, on Charlotte and Sasha Banks and the ways that that could go. So don't be surprised if Charlotte wins one over on Brie Bella, even with the circumstances that Brie is faced with. No doubt she'll be involved.